one of the things that I noticed, I lived in Coventry for a couple of years, and in Coventry we have quite, well, I mean, this was back in 2001, where there was quite a large Muslim immigrant population.
Not to discredit your own life experiences, but that was 15 years ago. A lot has changed in 15 years. I live just outside the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto Area. I went to school and worked in the GTA around the exact same time period, and the extremism and radicalism of not only immigrants but their children has drastically changed. 15 years ago, I would have agreed with your statement you're about to give, but not anymore. The kids with the immigrant parents were in all sense of the word Canadian. However, that's not the case anymore, for an alarming number seem to be more religious and more radical.
And the parents, the first generation, were very much sort of traditional Muslims, but the children that had been raised in England were very much not like traditional Muslims. In fact, honestly, I don't think that their children are going to be Muslims.
It seems the Muslim immigrant parents noticed this as well, and have been doing everything in their power to not only make sure their children remain Muslim, but teaching Islamic extremism in not only mosques, but schools, as a way, as I can only assume, resist their children from being westernized and ultimately push for an Islamic state in the UK. This segregated method and radicalized teaching, to say the least, seems to be having some effect.
You know, they call themselves Muslims, but they seemed incredibly secular to me. They seemed to be the product of English culture. You know, they sounded English, they acted English, they went drinking, they smoked, they only attended mosque when forced to by their parents. You know, they really didn't strike me as being the sort of people who really wanted to be involved with Islam at all.
Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. It may very well have been 15 years ago, but things change, and not for the better. It's gotten to the point that the British government are paying Muslims to spy on other Muslims.
But yeah, so I've got these statistics from Germany, and so they've got this report that reveals migrants committed over 185,000 crimes in Germany, and I mean, you know, for 1.2 million migrants, okay, I mean that is a lot, but it is still a small percentage of the migrants that are committing the crimes.
That we know about. What you're going off of is the lowest common denominator. There are crimes that have not been reported, recorded, or found out about. Not to mention the fact that the Liberal government and Liberal media's vast attempts to cover up any negative press about the migrants is going to contribute to lower estimates. That's not even taking into consideration the number of migrants that have gone missing and could be anywhere in Europe. With estimates reaching 138,000 to 600,000, there could easily not even be 1 million migrants in Germany.
But it's the breakdown of the crimes that I found quite interesting. So 23,000 of them were physical injuries, 75,000 of them were robberies, and falsification of travel documents was 26,000. Sexual offences were only 1,462, of which 404, and on top of that, there were 404 cases of rape or sexual assaults. So they are I mean, that considering we're talking 1 million plus migrants, that's a surprisingly low number, really.
No, it's not. It's very high when you consider the ratio of German men committing these crimes, and that none of these rapes or sexual assaults would have happened if there were no migrants, or if they had bothered to vet them. This is blatant hand-waving, and I have a strong feeling if it were your wife or daughter that was a victim in all this, it would have been the one too many.
I would expect in some sort of chaos like this, a great number of people who you might describe as, I don't know, delinquents, you know, like young men with no particular roots or ties to anything.
The problem with this is delinquents are usually lazy. That's why they're delinquents. I could see them getting that idea in their head, but the thought of actually doing all that walking would probably deter them.
I don't want to make excuses, but like these genuinely are what the numbers are like. You know, it's not the overwhelming majority of the migrants that do this, and I think it is important to remember that.
But you are making excuses for them. The number of crimes are increasing every day, and I suspect will continue to rise with more and more migrants taking part once it becomes clear they're going to get away with it. Remember, it's not only an issue of what they're doing, but their dangerous ideologies they're trying to implement that aren't compatible with Western ideologies, that will eventually lead to a violent outcome when they try to force their ideology on their gracious hosts.
Yeah, as if these things are now somehow irreconcilable from being on the left. And it's like, no. I'm not going to be dictated to by a bunch of authoritarian progressives about how I'm suddenly not the left wing because I don't agree we should do everything that they say.
Well, the left has changed. I once considered myself a bit of a leftist until all the crazies took over, and I abandoned ship, along with all the other sane people. I'm going to put you in the same category as Dawkins and Bill Maher. You're fighting for a battle to hold on to something you've already lost. You just don't know it yet. And all you can hope for is a phallic victory.
Yeah, I mean, that's my problem with the far right might get hold of this and use it as racist propaganda. It's like, look, it doesn't matter what you say or do. They're going to do whatever comes out, they're going to use as racist propaganda.
Why is the far right automatically racist? Being far right and far left are mutually exclusive to being racist. It is possible to be far right and not a racist. To make it clear, I consider myself to be more of a centralist than anything else.
So you may as well just ignore them, because otherwise you're going to be burying the information which will push people to them, and you'll just help them.
Is pushing people into this man's arms really that bad?
Just to cover it then, as I understand it, there's about 100 men who handed out leaflets calling for attacks on migrants, and a bunch of them did get into fights, didn't they?
Well, it's not, the media said that the flyer was racist. I read the flyer, I put it up on Facebook. It wasn't racist. It wasn't racist at all. It basically said that, the justice system has collapsed. The social contract is broken. If you're not going to take care of Swedish citizens, we are. And we're going to go to a train station and mark against these criminal immigrant gangs who have been terrorizing people. We don't feel safe in our own country anymore, basically. But unfortunately, what happened in practice is that they just beat up any Swedish citizen who looked like an immigrant. I don't even think they managed to attack one of those criminal North Africans. So even though they might have had good intentions, it ended up being a pretty fucking racist action, and not really something I would condone, since I don't condone attacking innocent people.
This is the problem with vigilante justice, is that it's not really any form of justice. It's a bit of a misnomer, and you end up, being a vigilante to people who don't deserve it.
This is more of a correction than a criticism, but these attacks on the Stockholm train station by these so-called right-wing fascists was not only misrepresented, but completely fabricated. As far as I'm aware, the Swedish police reports have nothing on attacks against migrants during this time frame, when these vigilante attacks were supposed to have occurred. YouTuber by the name Black Pigeon does a really good job of exposing this with sources and evidence. I'll play a short clip of his and leave a link in the description below for anyone who wants to watch the whole thing, and I recommend you do. It's amazing, and done very well.
Swedish police have already conceded there is nothing they can do to stop the robberies and sexual molestation of ethnic Swedish women and little girls. But they've already set up a squad to stop so-called far-right mobs. Even though, by their own admission, they have yet to find anyone that was actually attacked physically when the so-called rampage occurred. I'm backing up the failure of the police to have even a single witness or even CCTV camera footage of the alleged atrocities. It's been quite convincingly shown that this supposed rampage that has been reported worldwide in the train station in Stockholm never happened. And it's a complete fiction invented by one far-left Swedish newspaper, which then syndicated through the rest of the controlled media as fact. To establish the truth of what happened in central Stockholm on the evening of Friday, the 29th of January 2016, it's necessary to start with the official Stockholm police report of the incident, which can be found on their website in Swedish. Links are provided in the description below for anyone to read. The police report makes no mention of a rampage of violence against migrants. None whatsoever. But to hell with truth when there are vicious rapists and criminal migrants to defend.